All right, guys, thanks so much. Yeah, Eat Well Group joining us today. We're thrilled to have them, a fully integrated, and I love this phrase, seed to market company operating in the plant-based and ESG space. Marc Aneed, President and Director, joining us to talk a little bit about the company. An interesting concept here, Marc, we'll get to in a second here, but this space has seen really impressive growth over the past, I mean, 6 months, yes, but, you know, a year, even out to 2 years, if you want to go back that far. Tell us about this concept here because, you know, as we said, seed right through to market is a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah, Brendan, you're right. Good morning. Great to be with you and Trader TV. I'll tell you this. I started my career 20 years ago at the original plant-based foods company. It's called the Quaker Oats Company. But today, the world has become so expansive in how it thinks about plant-based foods. The trends are multiple vectors all coming in one direction to make this something that's going to be enduring. But what's different about Eat Well Group, we're a brand new company, really with decades in the making, is we've created a vertically integrated market by design. Why does that matter for your investors? For one simple reason. To win in plant-based foods, you have to have scale up at the supply lines. That's been a bit of a truism now for several years. You look at the big players who are our friends and customers in the space, they tell you quality, quantity, and pricing of supply is something that's a gap. But you have others that specialize in retail and branded type products. We're building a platform all the way through upstream, midstream, downstream. It matters because supply security integrated with food tech all the way down through to retail is one of the very rare but most critical things to do in this space, and that's what we're doing by design at Eat Well Group.
I want to throw some data out here at you, Marc, because I pulled some data off a couple of different platforms yesterday. But according to Bloomberg, first off, this space alone is supposed to or should accelerate to 162 billion by 2030 from the current 29.5-ish billion kind of market cap. For plant-based food. Eat Well Group, I mean, already achieving profitability. What has been the key here to, you know, as you said, a fairly new company, get to profitability so quickly?
Perfect question. The key is the management and the leadership team. So our group has been in this space on a cumulative basis well over 100 years. That matters in particular in plant-based because we've all been in it for 15 years before it was a term. We know what the right mistakes were to make, and we made them. So when you look at our revenues, they're built off the backbone of Bell Pulses, which is a pulse protein processing business we've acquired, run by absolute gem of people up in the prairies in Canada. And this is a 4-decade-old business that's been developing and refining pulse-based protein. So these are things like green peas and yellow peas and chickpeas and fava beans that go further downstream into your Beyond Burger. And they are going into human food and pet food. We're one of the leading pet food ingredient suppliers. So what's happening is a market that is addressable with this phrase, anybody that has a body, human and pet food, all are opting in with this flexitarian concept. Who knew we needed an academic turn to do what our parents told us? Eat more fruits and vegetables. But we've got a protein-driven backbone to our business. So we're projecting about 60 million Canadian revenue this year. That's because we know how to invest in the space. We have positive margins. We're able to underpin future growth with those earnings. And we also have IP and food tech that are leading us into the snacking space and downstream into CPG products.
Let's talk a little bit further about the business itself, divided up basically into 3 different segments, the agribusiness, food tech, and consumer goods segments. What do we need to know about each?
That's right. That's exactly the right way that we think about the business. That is a full chain, full platform, vertical integration model. What you need to know about each piece that Eat Well Group brings that nobody else does is we have a business that literally steps its way all the way to the end consumer or retail products or retailers in private label fashion. So Bell Pulses, we distribute in 35 countries a disciplined breadth of pulse-based proteins. These are things like fava beans, chickpeas, green peas, yellow peas, and they are protein drivers. So when you think of the foods that you've had, if you've tried anything in plant-based foods in the last 75 days, you've possibly, if not probably, had something with Bell ingredients. We use clean tech to process and refine those products. Our customers include big names like General Mills and Nestle on the CPG side, as well as Ingredion, a New York Stock Exchange traded largest multi-billion-dollar ingredient distribution and processing business. On the IP side, we've invested in a snacking business led by the founder and the inventor of the Twisted Cheeto. So Dr. Bertone was a leader at Frito-Lay for multiple years. He's part of the alumni group that's gone into plant-based foods at Motif and places like Eat Well Group with us. We're launching a plant-based Cheeto at the end of this year at the Federated Co-op that's in Western Canada for your US and global audience. So we have real IP that we monetize now. We're not asking investors to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 years to monetize that IP. And that is high function, high protein snacks. If there's one trend that I would put up against plant-based foods, it's the snacking trend, Brendan. We're all tired. We're all on the go. We all want to eat better and make sure that we're fueled for the day. So that's what our technology is doing with high protein snacks. And those will roll out in e-commerce as well by the end of next year. We're also in conversations now with tier 1 CPG partners who want to private label our product, as well as multiple acquisitions and other investments we'll be making downstream in consumer products, which is my background, marrying up with our leadership team's background in the upstream processing and IP.
It's an interesting concept in that, there's a lot of talk right now, Mark, about supply chain and delays because of supply chain concerns going forward. When you're operating the entire thing yourself, it's definitely a benefit.
It's a tremendous advantage. Years ago, we got the phone calls from the big names that and the burgers that you buy saying, we don't know where we're going to get our yellow peas. So we've created a bridge. So from the farm gate all the way to retail, we see what's happening with the supply chain. We see what's happening with crop rotations and long-term dynamics, literally region by region, and then we can program all the way downstream. That's something that really we don't know of anybody else in the market that's doing it. And we're a brand new company, so we're just getting the story out. Your audience is one of the very first to hear about it. We closed everything at the very beginning of August. We executed our name change and ticker symbol changes to Eat Well Group. We're getting going right now.
Going into Q4, an exciting time to get into the space, obviously, as we said. What do we look forward to from Eat Well going into next year?
You're going to hear a lot more about our expansions. So at a minimum, Corporate Strategy 101 says you maximize the assets you have. So today, Bell Pulse has entered into ongoing conversations and expanded conversations with big CPG names that you've heard about, expanding contracts, expanding our reach into human food and pet food, and doing that globally. Over 36 countries where we're distributed today, and more opportunities for direct-to-consumer products, which will help value out the chain. Downstream, as we mentioned, we're launching our plant-based Cheetos, and those are going to retail in North America starting the end of this year. And you're also going to hear about our acquisition thesis in motion. We have active deal flow, and we know as a management team how to prioritize the right sorts of investments. We look at top-line revenue that's real, that's got use cases and velocity, and is underpinned by great gross margins. We're not new to this space. Like I said, we've made a lot of the right mistakes. We have a lot of the right people on our team. And the last thing I tell you is we're bringing a lot of global leaders into this ecosystem of ours. Prince Khalid bin Al-Walid from KBW Ventures, who's been a pioneer in this space, is from the line of the Saudi royal family. Dan Prefontaine, who's the president of the Saskatchewan Food Center, who helped develop Oatly's Milk as an example, serves with 12 of the 15 top global CPG businesses in the world. These are the kinds of advisors that are signed on, they're on board, and you'll hear about more and more as we build out the model, the acquisitions, and the leadership.
It is EWG on the CSE. Marc Aneed, President and Director of Eat Well Group. A pleasure. Thanks for doing this. We'll look forward to an update in the future.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
There we go, guys. Eat Well Group. Interesting concept.